Hundreds attend Ohio churches drive-in church worship service. That headline is a tongue twister. But in saying that, this is an interesting concept, especially in the world of coronavirus, COVID-19. They brought in 300 cars. And what ended up happening is through an FM transmitter, they were able to transmit their service to each of these cars, worship, the preacher was able to preach, and everybody was able to stay within the confines of their car, and they were able to respect everything that was set out by their governor, and they were able to respect the law of the land. And this is interesting because we are living in a different age where we have to figure out how are we going to do church just a little bit differently. And it might be, and it is going to be, temporary. We'll eventually come back and we'll gather again. But this brings up creative ways as when our environment changes, we need to change with that environment if we're still going to share our faith. So in saying all of that, I brought Martin. I was going to say Martin.
You know,
too.
it's okay. I know you know me.
I know. We're in a cluster, or we were in a cluster group together, and
ouch.
And I know. Well, you're the one that left your church, but that's okay. We won't go down that road right now. You're currently in transition. We're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
And as that transition is progressing, you are now at a Rogers store. You're the manager, right?
Yep.
No time wasted at all. Like not even just minion janitor first. You walk in the door, you're already the manager. And so
it was the beard.
It was the beard. See, that's why I could never be a manager.
It's a power beard.
I can't grow a beard.
Yeah.
This whole thing right here, I don't know what it is, but
grow a quarantine beard. It would be awesome.
It's not going to happen. Anyways, enough about the beard talk. So your life changed.
Yeah.
But you obviously still share your faith, and as the manager of a top-notch phone store, if I can say that, I'm with Bell, so I don't know.
Come see me. Sorry.
But in saying all that, obviously things have changed. You're not preaching on Sunday, so are you preaching to your employees every day? Or are you like, as soon as a customer comes walking in the door, you're like, have you seen Jesus?
Do you know Jesus?
You know, you all need Jesus.
Y'all do.
So how has that changed a little bit? Just kind of talk about how life and as a pastor has changed to going to a manager of Rogers.
Well, the interesting thing is managing. It's not that different from pastoring in a lot of ways, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're dealing with people, right?
Exactly.
The difference is with managing versus pastoring. I can fire people. No.
There you go. If the worship leader on Sunday put out a bad song, you couldn't fire him.
It's very true. It's very true. Where is Dwayne? I'm just kidding. The awesome thing that I find for myself, like I have kind of a personal life mission statement that I live by, right? So my mission in life is to motivate and empower people to be all that they can be in life and God's kingdom, right? So that mission statement holds up no matter what line of work I might be in, right? Like, so not being a pastor anymore, I mean, at least for the time being, we'll see what God has in the future, right? Definitely changes your perspective and maybe the way people look at you and that kind of thing, right? But my mandate in life hasn't changed at all. If anything, I've really seen it as a blessing because I'm around unbelieving people that don't know Jesus way more than I ever was as a pastor, right? Like as a pastor, I would have to intentionally go and connect with people that don't know Jesus.
Yeah.
Like you have to do it intentionally because as a pastor, you quickly get absorbed into this bubble Like your friends are church people, you go and visit church people, everything is church people, right? And before you know it, you almost lose touch with how to even talk to people that don't know Jesus.
Well, exactly. Right? Like even for myself, because I'm constantly surrounded by church people, by Christians, constantly getting emails. I got to the point where I didn't know anybody like in the community. And apart from that, I decided to join a volleyball league. I think the original intent was I needed to do something to kind of maintain this physique that I have, or lack thereof. And but at the same time, you're able to connect with people that don't know Christ.
Yep.
And then they find out, oh, you're a pastor? And their whole posture all of a sudden changes. And so
I know, dude.
and so I immediately go, no, I still want you to treat me like I'm still that same person before all of a sudden you discovered you're a pastor. Like,
yeah.
And so I immediately go, and you might, some people might not like this, but if they swear in front of me, I'm like, that is you, man. I don't imagine too much of that went on, and I could be wrong, but you could tell me. You feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong on this. But when Jesus sat with the prostitutes and he sat with the tax collectors, I think he expected them to be real with him. Am I wrong?
No, not at all.
The golden rule is
about that too.
The golden rule though is treat others as you would want them to treat you. So in fairness there, Jesus would probably be like, I really don't want you swearing at me. But that's not what the golden rule is about.
Yeah.
It's about how do I want to be treated? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so how does that come out in your workplace? Like as a Rogers manager, treating others as you want to be treated, even though they're not believers and they're probably not going to treat you as a Christian.
Well, part of the tricky thing too in the beginning was getting past the stigma, because all the reps knew that I was a pastor, right? So a bunch of them still call me Pastor Dan, even though they don't really know what pastor means, which I find hilarious, right? Oh. But I remember the one day.
Hold that thought for a minute, because I'm a bus driver.
Yeah.
So one day, all the kids on the bus, they call me pastor, and I think it was because one kid said pastor.
Yeah.
Some of them call me passenger Jaime, because they can't say pastor.
They don't know. Passenger Jaime.
Another syllable over there.
But anyway, Jesus took the wheel.
So, and it just reminded me of a story of just on the last few days of school, it just happened that this kid called me Pastor Jaime, and then he stopped for a minute and he was like, what is a pastor? So for this whole school year,
they don't even know what it is.
They don't even know what it is,
no.
But yet they still call you a pastor.
Yeah, no, 100%. But that case in point, right, just goes to show that we are living in a post-church, post-Christian culture, right? People that grew up in church, they know what a pastor is, right? But tons of people, they know what a priest is from I don't know, a show on TV or whatever. They have that kind of stuff. But a lot of people have no idea what a pastor is. Like I guarantee, maybe depending on where you go, right? But you walk out into the street, probably 50% of people are like, pastor. What does that mean? What is that? Right? But as Christians, we're like, well, of course, it's a pastor. It's the guy the guy that preaches, or whatever, however we want to categorize it, right? We don't even think twice about it.
Only work an hour a week.
Just Sundays, right? Yeah. Well, it was funny though. Like I said, breaking the stigma, right? So, I remember the first time the one rep swore in front of me. Right? And they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And I was like, whoa. And the same thing, I have the same conversation over and over again with people in my life that I meet, right? It happened years ago at the gym that I was going to. I didn't tell anybody that I was a pastor, but then they found out. I remember the guy was like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of all the times that I swore in front of you, right? And I'm like, I said, look, if you think, I said, number one, no matter what you say, you're not gonna offend me. You're not going to offend me, right? And if you have offended me, I'll tell you, right? I said, but don't worry about offending me. If you think that swearing or saying certain things is inappropriate, then don't for your sake. Don't do it for my sake, because you're not going to offend me. If you think that because I'm a pastor that I'm some magical lens to God and that he now sees it because I'm in your presence, that's not the way that it works either. I think so. Either or, it's up to you to manage your behavior. Don't.
Or, I've got this prayer request and I'm going to bring it to you because you're the one that talks to him and I don't.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's such a bad mentality for that. Yeah. But I think we totally went left field out of the question.
No, the question was more of, again, that swearing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want them swearing at you, but you're not going to correct them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we
swearing
need
at me. If they swore at me, I would correct them very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
In your presence.
Yeah.
But that whole mentality, they treat you one way, but you want to treat them as you want to be treated.
Yeah.
And so what does that look like for you?
The biggest thing, again, comes back to the way, like I see the way Jesus lived his life, right? And I see that Jesus, though he might not have had a life mission statement like some of us do now, that's the trendy thing and all that kind of stuff, right?
I think his mission statement was to die and rise again.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I see the way that he lived his life and the way that he discipled and the way he poured into his disciples, right? And he did it for their sake and for their betterment, right? So one of the things that I constantly try to do, right, is when I head to my place of work, I try to think of it as, okay, I'm not just going here as my place of work. I'm going here and I want to actively encourage these people to just get better, to grow, to mature, hey, like we have conversations about Jesus and all this kind of stuff. I've had it with every single one of them, right? And we talk about it, right? And obviously I don't throw it in their face because number one, that's illegal, right? And number two, you don't want to hit them over the head with the Bible. But I mean, when you're genuinely living your life for Jesus and you genuinely care about people, right? That kind of stuff happens. Those conversations happen. I think sometimes, this is just my humble opinion, I think sometimes as believers, right?
Yeah.
We skip over the whole just loving on people because we get so concerned with, oh, I got to bring them to Jesus. I got to preach the gospel to them, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, you know what? Just like God is love.
Is there like too much? Like, could you actually preach to somebody so much that you're actually going to do the opposite in their life where they're going to want nothing to do with the church? They're going to want nothing to do with God. Do you think that's possible? Like you just kind of mentioned that yelling at them, and is it possible that it,
push people further away?
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. Like here's the interesting thing, and I might get tons of backlash for this.
Well, that's
right?
Okay. I'll just put your email address as donotcare@hotmail.com.
There we go. There we go.
So yes, we'll put that at the bottom of the screen. donotcare@hotmail.com.
There we go.
Work on that, Dwayne.
So think of it this way, right? You brought two Bibles. I feel bad because I didn't bring up. I should have brought a Bible.
You brought your phone, and one's the New Living and one's the King James.
Ooh.
Don't get much further.
Exactly.
I might as well brought the message.
There you go. So the Word of God is true.
Yeah.
Right? And it's amazing and it's powerful. Right? But with a lot of people, like the Word of God is made much more powerful when it's applied, right? We can read the Bible and read the Bible and read the Bible as much as we want, right? But if we're not applying it to our lives, there's really not that much change that we're allowing to really happen in us by just reading it, right? It's good. You were reading good truth and all these things, right? But like, I would much rather you read a little bit and apply what you've read than read tons and not apply that much, because then you're not really changing and growing, right? Yep. So we do that because we believe ultimately in the authority of the Bible, right? So we apply it to our lives, right? I think what so often happens with Christians, and this is the tricky part of being in a bubble, right, is you can't just throw the Bible at somebody and expect them to believe it when they don't even believe it has authority, right? So it's like, hey, Jaime, you know what? You should start jogging every day. The Pillsbury Doughboy says so, right? It's like, what does the Pillsbury Doughboy? You don't believe in that his authority.
Well, I think he wants me to eat more croissants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do not believe in his authority on that subject whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
So if we just say, oh, this Bible verse says this, and somebody doesn't believe that it has any kind of authority, they don't care what you have to say, right? Whereas if you start to show them that the Word of God is true, and when you apply it to your life, it's going to change your life, right? That will absolutely change a person's perspective, right? Like, for instance, the book of Proverbs, it's amazing.
Yes.
Awesome, incredible book. But you know what? The book of Proverbs is like the most practical book in the entire Bible. There's very in it that's like, you read it and you can see, oh, this is deep spiritual stuff. But really, it's just a bunch of do this, don't do that. You do this, you're an idiot, and you're going to wind up, you do this, you'll wind up being better,
Yep.
right? So the Word of God is very, very powerful in the simple fact that if you live by it, it's true, it's good, right?
Exactly.
And like even that's like tier level 1. Then you move up even higher to some of the spiritual truth and the spiritual activation that can be released in your life, and the power of the Holy Spirit and all these other things, right? And I think sometimes as Christians, we get so excited about all the spiritual stuff that we forget that, you know what, the Bible is just true in its straight up application. You live according to it, and you're going to live a life that not that it's free from trial, but you're living a life that's going to continue to set you up to be right. So when talking with people that don't know Jesus, to bring this all the way back around, right, I'll do sometimes little sneaky things. Like I had a chat with one of my reps the other day, right, and they were just complaining about some stuff, and I said, you know what, if you don't learn to just, if I can't like rely on you to do little tiny small tasks, why do you think I should trust you to elevate you to do even greater or even bigger tasks? Why is that? Right? Now, you and I both know that that's a Bible verse.
Yeah.
It's a Bible verse.
Sounds pretty biblical,
right?
to me.
It's a Bible, 100%, right?
Yep.
And the power in that message is not necessarily that, you know, it was read from this version or from the King James or whatever. The power in that message is that it is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. If you are faithful in the small things, then God will trust you with bigger things.
Yep.
Right? So throwing in Bible verses into your life and living out your life, it's actually kind of easy when you start to be intentional about it. You're like, oh, you know what? I can teach this person right now from the Bible, and they don't even realize it. And then afterwards, they'll be like, everything I just said, here's where you can find it in the Bible.
But don't you have to like quote it like right away?
No, you really don't.
Like this is where I got the source from. No.
Yeah, but like when you start to do that kind of stuff, like it demonstrates the power of the Word of God. Right? And when you start to show all of these things, they're like, wow, that's really wise. Oh, well, you know where I got that from? Where? The Bible.
Look at John C. Maxwell. He's like a top-notch business person in the world. But all of his principles, everything he practices, it's from the Bible. And people eat this up going, wow, like this is like amazing stuff.
So wise.
It's so wise. And it's like,
yeah.
It's from the Bible.
Yeah.
But we get so stuck in our bubble. Like even when COVID-19 came out, when, you know, even I resisted, I'm like, I don't want to shut down my church. Like, and I've heard so many pastors like, oh, we should be in an essential service. You know, we should demand the government reopen us. And so I came up with this kind of catchphrase that if you're not essential, make yourself essential.
Yeah.
In other words, let's not do what we've always done. Everything's different now.
Yep.
Like some of the practices you just mentioned in your workplace, you've taken what pastors do for a church. We want them to grow. We want them to mature. We want them to be better believers, better Christians, to live out the Great Commission, all of that. And so we challenge them, we push them. You're doing the exact same thing,
Yep.
just in a different environment.
Yep.
And so now that we're stuck in our homes and we have to like self-isolate and, social distance, we just need to figure out how we're going to do it differently.
Yep.
And to get outside of that bubble, to stretch our faith just a little bit more. Like, could you imagine the disciples when Jesus came along?
What?
And that he picked them, and they were just fishermen. And all of a sudden, he called them out. They didn't have any education. They didn't know what to do.
Yep.
And so you, at the same time, I'm sure you had those kinds of same feelings when you started as a manager. Like, what am I going to do? Like, this isn't a group of believers. This isn't a church. You can't get up on a Sunday morning and just beat them over the head with the Bible, and they'll go home and say, thank you for beating me over the head with the Bible. So
good word this Sunday, Pastor. Good word.
Yes.
Oh, great preaching, Pastor. Great preaching. Yeah. And the application you took home from this was a great sermon. That's the application I have for this. Sorry. Don't do that to your pastors, church folks, okay? Here's my challenge to all of you church folks. If you're going to walk up to your pastor, this is just a side note. If you're going to walk up to your pastor and say, great sermon, do not do that without saying, this is the application that I'm going to take home and apply to my life. Yeah. Just a tidbit for all of you church people.
So anyway,
I can say that now.
You talk about your faith respectfully with them.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's changed. How did that feel in the beginning, though?
I don't know. I like to think of myself as a little unique, but maybe I'm not. I don't know. My wife says I'm unique. I
think all our wives say that.
Yes. I've always found it very natural, very kind of easy to transition into things. And here's a crazy thing. I've led more people to Jesus when in secular work than I ever have when I've been in the ministry, right? Which is challenging for me to think about, because I loved pastoring. I love preaching. I love all those things and all the things that are wrapped up in being a pastor, right? Absolutely. And I miss it, but now that I'm not pastoring and I'm in a secular work environment and all this kind of stuff, I've tried to think simply, how would I want everybody that would come under my ministry, how would I want them to behave in the workplace? Because as a pastor that works in a church, right? You can be like, go and live out Jesus in your workplace and go and huzzah. And you're basically just the greatest cheerleader kind of standing behind them, right? And you're trying to encourage your greatest resource, which is your people, to just go and to do, right? Well, now I have the opportunity to not only go and do, to grow and to do it myself, but also learn how to potentially let other people apply these same things to their lives, So now it's not just a matter of, go and do. Good luck. I'll be in my office, right? And this isn't a knock on any pastor.
No.
Right? This has been honestly a blessing to me.
Actually, there's probably a good lesson in that, which is kind of a little bunny trail here, but some pastors do that where they tell the congregation, go, do, and then they go to their office. And then the congregation doesn't see them living out that example.
Yep.
When that example could change their lives
100%.
even more than that sermon on a Sunday morning.
Yep, 100%.
Sorry to any pastors out there that just got convicted.
Sorry if you're watching this in your office. Yeah. What was I saying?
Yeah, sorry, distracted you. But you're
okay.
talking about the change, how it's your faith is the same, but you're treating them differently. How you felt about that, and And
Yeah. Well, part of it too, here's the awesome thing. When the tricky part of being in ministry sometimes is that we're called upon to professionalize our faith. We're called upon to professionalize our spirituality and whatever that may look like, right? We're paid to do it. We're paid to be spiritual. We're paid to preach well. We're paid to do all these things and all this kind of stuff, right? Now, I'm not paid to do that. I'm paid to sell cell phones, right? That's what I'm paid to do. And, reach my targets and all this kind of stuff, right? And all of that.
put a
right?
Bible app on every phone.
I got a funny story about. I'll tell you another time. But so my faith now is completely my own, and I live it out because it's a part of who I am, not because I'm paid to do it. That would be probably my challenge to everybody out there, right? Especially during this, coronavirus season and all that kind of stuff, right? Is get with Jesus.
Yeah.
Get with Jesus so that when you go and you're around somebody, right, the love pours out of you, right? Because like, as I was saying earlier, God is love. So if you want to demonstrate God to somebody, let the love of God pour out of your life.
Yes.
That will open up the avenue to tell them even more, right? Too often we're so busy ready to hammer somebody with the gospel, hammer them with love. Go above and beyond. Because I think the discipleship process, this is a rabbit trail, right? I think the discipleship process in somebody's life often starts long before they ever accept Jesus into their lives. Long before.
Totally agree.
Like you're already, working with the person and just trying to be a blessing in their lives. And, like that's what, like any mature believer is looking to have somebody in their life that they are trying to pour into, to help grow, to help mature, to become just a better in life and better in God's kingdom, right? Coming back to kind of the way I try to live my life, right?
Yeah. And I've noticed that people are shocked when something out of it's not normal for something to happen. And so they're kind of shocked when somebody approaches you. Like we've been talking like so much, like you need to reach out to your elderly neighbor, or you need to find out if the person next door is okay. And so it was kind of bugging me there. And I don't say this to pat myself on the back, but, because it actually took me, and this is probably a sad part of the story, it took me 2 days to go next door to my elderly neighbor because I hadn't seen him like at all. And so I began to wonder, he lives alone. And so it took me 2 days to go and just knock on the door and see if he was okay. And so he comes to the door, doesn't open the door, social distancing, doesn't open the door. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Just come to see if you're okay." Yeah. And he was just blown away. Just a simple thing like that. And so I think the challenge for us, and the challenge has been for you in a different environment, but for the whole world as believers right now, the environment is different. How are we going to live that out now? The church has started a breakfast program here, and I've heard from places all the way up in North Bay. They just call me up and they go, "How are you doing this?" They want to copy it. They want to just kind of repeat what we're doing in a different area, and good for them. They want to get out of the four walls. They want to perform faith in the world. And so that is awesome for them to do. And the challenge for all of us churches is to do that. At the same time, we're making masks for healthcare workers, which is an amazing thing because the government has said they're running low on those. And those healthcare workers, they need them. And if the church can be there for them, just to show a little bit of love, then they're going to think twice about what the church actually is now. Because so often it's been about, I heard the church and they were fighting and the police were called to this church, and I heard about the pastor, and what he did, Those people over there, have you seen the best thing I've ever heard is waitresses.
That's heartbreaking. My wife was a waitress. It's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Sometimes the tips that Christians give to waitresses just go and speak more than words could ever have. And so I think the challenge for us today in this midweek connection is that we just need to figure out how we are going to live out love, the love of Christ in this world that has changed temporarily. We're going to get back to normal, but temporarily. And so we need to be able to do that. I'm going to invite Dan to close us off in prayer, to pray for each of us as believers, as a church, as our environment has changed, as we struggle to figure out how to live out in a world that doesn't have a main service anymore. And does that mean a drive-in church service, or does that mean something entirely different? And so we need God's wisdom at this time, and so that's what I'm just going to ask Dan here to pray.
Can I say one thing before I dive into prayer?
Go right ahead.
Right, and you can decide to cut this if you want to, but I feel like there might be one or two people out here that need to hear this.
Go ahead.
Okay, and if this sounds like I'm ranting or it's a pet peeve, I don't mean it to be that way. It's just something that's kind of been on my heart.
Yep.
Right. I feel like there's maybe a believer or maybe a pastor out there, right?
Talk right into this.
Right now, you're home, you're thinking about all these things, and you're thinking, now is the time for me to finally launch that podcast, or now is the time for me to finally start that blog, because that's what the cool pastors do, right? They blog and they podcast and all this kind of stuff, right?
That's why I'm cool.
Yeah, exactly. Let me challenge you something first. If you don't know all of your neighbors yet, do that first. Get to know them first. Get to know every single one of your neighbors' names. Get to know just a little bit about what makes them tick, and figure out a way that you can serve them. Do that first, before you think about the podcast or the blog or all this kind of stuff, because I'm sure you have tons of things to say, and that's not a bad thing, right? But if you as a believer or you as a pastor start to see your little neighborhood as your opportunity to reach out and be a blessing, you'd be amazed at how you can change your whole community. Then do your podcast and fill it full of the testimonies of your neighbors getting saved.
That's good.
Yeah, so that'd be my final challenge.
Go ahead, pray.
Awesome. Mighty God, we love you so much. And God, we fully acknowledge that we are in some trying times. God, there's so many opinions, and there's so many ideas about what to do, what not to do. There's so many things going on that we don't understand. There's economic uncertainty. There's uncertainty in our health system right now. Is it going to collapse? Is it going to hold strong? All of these different things, mighty God. The market's going up and down, and all of this. But God, through all of that, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you never change. That your faithfulness is the same today, tomorrow, and yesterday. And God, you are still on the throne, and you are above all of these things. So mighty God, I pray for every single believer out there. God, that we would live our lives accordingly. That we would live our lives as though our house is built upon the rock and not upon the sand. That we would live our lives as though our assurance is found in you, mighty God. That we would be like Jesus, asleep in the front of the boat in the middle of the storm. Not because he was lazy, but because he had peace and strength and knowing that the Father is in control. So mighty God, let us be beacons of peace in this chaotic time. Let us be beacons of love in this chaotic time, mighty God. That the way that we live our lives in the midst of this would shine so brightly. Because God, we all want to be people of faith. But God, we know that our faith is only put to the test through difficult seasons like this. So God, let all of your people of faith rise up at this time. God, all the sermons that have been preached, all the prayers that have been prayed, and all the Bible verses that have been read, they prepare us for times like this. So God, let your people rise up. Encourage your people right now, because you have not given us a spirit of fear. God, you've given us love, joy, peace, hope, all of these things, mighty God. So let us walk in them right now in a time that is shadowed by so much fear and chaos. Let us shine a beacon of light and hope. In your mighty name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jaime.